Welcome to Section 31, episode number 235. I'm Dan Hammond.
And I am Rogue Schindler.
This week we're bringing a special guest, Daniel Madison, who is going to join us to talk about regional season. Why don't we do that first? I was going to put that later in the show, but you know what? I'm going to give you less time to think, Daniel.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Here's
the question for you. Yeah. You can catch his podcast, the Road to Worlds Regional Rundown, on Wednesdays at 11:30 Eastern Time. You have a guest coming up day after tomorrow?
This week we've got John Corbett is coming back, and Jay, the Mad Vulcan writing guy, Jay.
All right, that sounds entertaining.
And then next week we're doing our wrap-up show because regionals is over. This is our last week of regional season. We're gonna have Thomas Kimura on, and then we're going into continental shows.
So you're gonna keep rolling with the the bigger the tournament, keep going all the way through Worlds?
I think we're going to run all the way through Worlds. We're still working out the logistics of how that's going to work, but it looks like we'll do shows all through July because every week we could either do a preview for Continentals or recap the Continentals. You know, there's three and they're all in July, so there's enough to talk about to get us through July, and then we'll just probably do two shows about Gen Con, one before, one after.
Awesome. Here's my question to you. In general, we used to do this contest where we would draft affiliations, and it was fun. There was a lot of diversity, and we had a couple people on to, Brad played with us, Charlie played with us, and then TNG won everything, and it wasn't fun anymore. Do you see the diversity coming back, or is there one or two affiliations that are still way too strong?
This is 2E we're talking about?
Yeah.
There's a bit of diversity, but overall we're seeing a lot of blue, and I don't have the actual numbers in front of me, and I know that my co-host Greg Dillon, he's been doing a lot of the research and really paying attention to what's winning and what's doing well. But yeah, we've noticed a lot of federation in all of its varieties. TNG, Deep Space Nine, Relativity, and I think TOS is the one affiliation that's been winning the most regionals. With Relativity being very strong in general and taking one or two wins and a lot of second place finishes.
Are you seeing anything? Has the set release kind of midway through this regional season? Has there been a bump, or is it pretty much steady state?
The set release doesn't seem to have done a lot. There were a few people that tried Bajor, and there's been a couple of Cardassian decks, and I think one Cardassian deck even won a regional. But overall, not a huge bit of difference. I know more people are playing self-replicating Roadblock, so there's that. But as far as deck types, other than a few people trying out new Bajor, it hasn't made a huge impact on the regional season.
Switching over to first edition,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ever. I'm thinking back. I don't think we actually did a draft contest at first edition. That would have been interesting.
No.
Is it? There was a lot of talk about how the errata to TNG would knock it out of contention. What's winning? What's being played?
Well, first I'd say it's hard to parse that out to do a 1E type of affiliation draft. With 2E, it's fairly easy. You've got your 16 or 18 headquarters, or however many there are, and then you've got Relativity, and then you've got the Con deck, which someone did just win a regional with a Con deck, so that is in there. But 1E, it's really hard to parse that out because you can't just, nobody plays. I mean, you could play a straight everything Federation deck, but people rarely do. You know, it's now it's TNG fed and it's DS9 fed and it's Hereby Invitation fed Bajoran, and then you've got Circle Bajorans and you've got Resistance Bajorans with everything. There's just so many different deck types now that you can't really claim one affiliation. That said, as far as what's winning, again, a lot of Federation. Bajoran Resistance is everywhere. That's very strong, but there's been a lot of TNG decks are still getting there, so they're still making it to the top tier. I've seen a couple of TNG Klingon decks at the top, and a little bit of Borg. I think we've had one regional Borg win. But yeah, mostly various iterations of Federation or Fed Bajoran or Fed Bajoran, TOS and Bajoran, Enterprise E and Bajoran. So Resistance sells very strong.
So not a lot of reshaping the quadrant, more TNG or open-ended, so people can pair in the Bajoran Resistance folks.
Either TNG or just an open Bajoran with something or a little more open-ended build. Yeah, there's been some DS9 being played, but I can't recall that it's won any regionals. There might have been one. I can't recall off the top of my head.
What have we got looking forward to coming up this week? We got Santa Barbara for sure. And you mentioned something about you think TK is coming out for that one?
I'm pretty sure he is. He was supposed to be on the podcast last week, and he had to reschedule because he was moving back to California.
Oh.
Yeah. He's been.
I guarantee you just blew his surprise.
No. I'm looking at the tournament, and I'm looking at the tournament
he's
here,
pre-registered.
and yeah, he's pre-registered. Donati's pre-registered, and Nate's pre-registered, along with Aaron, Joel, and Carlos. That's quite a looking at looking at the rating of those top three people: 1896, 1890, 1828. That's going to be an entertaining tournament for sure.
Yeah, he told me that he has actually moved to Los Angeles, which he's really happy about because he's kind of midway between your group and Santa Barbara, and he can go to both without too much trouble.
Yeah, I know Joel comes down from LA, so that'll be good to have another player back in the ranks, right?
Yeah.
And out of your hair.
For a little while, at least. I don't know. I still somehow expect that he'll probably show up at our next set of regionals. I've just got a feeling.
He does like to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, Santa Barbara Regional. It's gonna be that's gonna be one that's tough to call. There's some very strong talent that's gonna make their way there, and I don't know. I've got to do a little more research on that one before I make a call. And besides, I kind of want to save it for Wednesday.
Very good. All right. Well, anything else that came up interesting this year in the regional season that you haven't brought up on your show, or you want to preview for your next one?
I'm a little actually I'm a little surprised with TUI. I'm a little surprised that a lot of the disruption and interaction decks that I've seen at higher level events are not getting played at regionals. There's been no Borg, there's been no Maquis. I think there was only been one Romulan win. Just not seeing a lot of that. People are just electing for faster solver style decks. TK did win one regional with a battle deck, and but it was TOS. It wasn't, it wasn't one of those, like, it wasn't Borg or Romulan or one of those affiliations that you immediately think of when you think of an interaction deck or a deck that takes some setup.
Do you think that's just because, I mean, the nature of a regional is more of a straight up, you gotta get full wins to get to the end, whereas, we typically see the interaction in a, match play kind of event.
Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, I didn't see. I've been to a couple of regionals now, and I've been to a couple of events, outside of my own play group, and I really haven't seen a lot of that style. And even having been to Gen Con once, I didn't really see a whole lot of it. I know there was a lot more of that style of decks being played in day two, but just from my own experience, I didn't witness any of that. And if I remember right, a Starfleet deck won uh,
Yep.
in one day too. Although that was before the Samuels errata.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to continue. You're welcome to hang out and talk about Origins. Have you ever been out to Origins in Columbus?
That is not one that I've been to.
All right.
I'm still a little new to the con scene. Gen Con's been the only one for me so far. I've been invited to Dragon Con a couple of times. I just haven't been able to make it work.
Origins is like a miniature, kind of cute version of Gen Con, I think. Well, what do you say, Rogue?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I think that has it's a stroke in its favor. It's basically got everything that Gen Con has except the crowds.
Yeah.
True Dungeon, which
Yeah,
I don't really
no
care
true
about.
dungeon. Yeah, no true dungeon. It doesn't. This is the first year that there was not a Trek event actually in the last 4 or 5 or so, because we typically, well, at least run a 2E or a triples event on Saturday, but couldn't rally the locals this time, so I brought my triples deck and never pulled them out of the bag, unfortunately. Um, this year, Rogue couldn't make it, but I took my 5-month-old boy and the wife, and we took off and spent some time with kind of our other group of friends, are the folks we hang out with at the con, and it was a nice, relaxing weekend. I got to demo a bunch of games. There was one game I really wanted to demo. Everyone's been talking about it recently. It's the Attack Wing. In fact, they even had a dragon version of it now, so you can fly dragons around and attack each other with dragons.
Oh, I've been playing that a little
Yeah?
bit.
What do you think?
I like it.
Attack
I
Wing or
only
the
have
Dragon one?
the Star Trek
Yeah.
Attack Wing. Yeah. I've got I bought the starter set a few months ago, and I picked up just a couple of extra ships for each affiliation, just enough so that we aren't just playing with one ship each. And yeah, it's interesting. From what I gather, it's not completely balanced. But then I haven't really delved into all the different ships that are out there. Like the Federation, the starter deck, came with the Enterprise D, and like I went out and bought the Defiant because I gotta have the Defiant, and
Smart man.
yeah, and that had some neat stuff. And what I like about it is the fact that it sort of has interchangeable parts. Like you buy these ships, and each ship has a number of cards with it, and each card represents various upgrades, or some of them might be weapon upgrades, or some of them might be technical upgrades, such as the cloaking device or a tractor beam, things like that. And some of them are crew upgrades, and they just represent this crew member is aboard this ship, and it gives you a special ability. Like you have Worf aboard, and he can protect you from taking damage, or something like that. But the pieces are interchangeable. Like once you buy the Defiant, for example, all the pieces that come with the Defiant can be used on your other Federation ships. With a few restrictions. Like there's the Defiant has a cloaking device which says it has to go on the Defiant, or else there's a penalty, like a point cost penalty. Uh, but that's one thing that I like about it is there's a bunch of different ships. There are a number of different factions, and there's really a lot of places they can go with it. They've just started. They started with Federation, Klingon, and Romulan, and they started bringing in some Bajoran ships and Dominion ships, and they're getting into bringing out the Borg, Kazons, and Species 8472, and I have not looked at those ships yet. I'm sure they've probably got some crazy, strange abilities, but I hear the Voyager is pretty tough too. So
They had a display out at the WizKids booth, and it was behind the glass case and it was kind of off to the side because I don't know if they just weren't promoting it or what. But they had it looked like a Borg tactical cube, and Deep Space Nine was this huge little model, and it was sized for the little miniature sized Enterprise D. It looked really nice. It was very impressive. It looked like it'd be like a set piece that you'd have a little battle around.
I've seen the Deep Space Nine model. I hear that was like a league prize or a regional prize or something. And it's apparently it's playable. I'm sure, or at least that's what I'm told. I've seen it, but I haven't really looked at it up close. But I know that there are when you play in tournaments or league events, sanctioned events, that they have special promotional ships that are given out to the winners of those events that aren't normally sold.
So tell me, if I wanted to say get into this, but I didn't want to collect one of everything, get into it. You buy a starter, you buy a few, because I saw individual Romulan ships for sale. I didn't see any Daenerydexes. Maybe they're old or they just weren't available. Saw like an Apnex and a Valdor. Is there like a point cost for ships, and you show up with a army of 100 points, or do you have a ship and a captain? What's
that's exactly
mechanic?
it. It's like other miniature games, like Warhammer games, like where you have so many build points that you use to create your little armada with, and it depends on the whether you're doing a sanctioned event or just like a casual thing. But normally there's an agreed upon build point limit that all players involved bring to the table, and each ship has a point cost, but also each upgrade you put on that ship has a point cost too. So you can try to have more or smaller ships, but skimp out some on the upgrades, or you can have just a couple of ships and really trick them out for more power. That's really how you put the army together.
When I played briefly at Origins last year with a demo person who didn't entirely seem to know what he was talking about, but we kind of got the gist of it. I think he was trying to teach two tables at once, which was tough, and he kept forgetting where we were. Anyway, our very simplified version of the game, it very much felt like a lot of it kind of comes down to the risk factor, like the board game risk, where sometimes, or more often than not, your superior strategy can be very quickly and easily outdone by crap dice rolls. Lots and lots of crap dice rolls. Have you experienced that, or was that just like a one-time thing, you think?
I certainly have experienced that. Sometimes it can come down to that. Sometimes sometimes it also comes down to just placement and positioning of ships, because basically at the start of each turn, each player secretly decides how all their ships are going to move, and then one by one, these choices are revealed, and the ships move in a certain order. There's like an initiative order, and then once everything is moved, that's when you can start actually shooting. And you may be planning for your opponent to move a certain way, and you move a certain way, and then they may end up in a completely different position than you thought they would be. And suddenly, now you can't shoot them because you only have a forward phaser cannon, and they've moved off to your side. Different ships have different types of firing arcs and different types of weapons. Some can shoot torpedoes out their aft cannons. Some ships don't have that versatility. Also, some ships are more agile and can make sharper turns or can move faster in battle. Like the Enterprise is a really powerful ship, but it's really boxy and it's really taxing to try to make sharp turns with it. Whereas something like the Defiant is a lot more maneuverable because it's a smaller ship.
So if I wanted to just go to eBay, buy a few things, and just go to a tournament, what's the typical, cost? Not dollar wise, but army cost for standard organized play.
I want to say that they're generally like 100 to 120. I haven't actually been to sanctioned events, but this is what I'm told that they usually are. It's about 100 to 120 build points, and which means you would need at least 2, probably 3 ships, and you need to buy the starter to get all the rules and all the counters and everything that you need, all the base cards, and that gives you 1 Federation, 1 Klingon, and 1 Romulan ship. So if you want to use one of those affiliations as your start, then you would only have to buy like 1 or 2 more ships to go along with it.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Dan, I am looking at a Didierdix here on eBay. Here, there's a Didierdix starter, so you could do that.
Yeah,
if you want to play Romulan.
It's only a couple of bucks, and I figure you could. The last thing I want to do is buy something that just has 100 little minis that I'm going to have on the shelf. But if I could just get a couple of Romulan cruisers, a couple of cards to go with it, and that's it. But that's not bad.
Yeah, it's really customizable in that respect, and you can research and find out like the stats on the ship you're interested in and what cards come with it, and decide if that's before you buy it if that's the one you're gonna want. But yeah, you don't need to have a lot to play. You just need a couple ships, and it's just strategizing which upgrades do you want with which ships, and then learning the strategy.
I think the answer is don't go into it with the intent that you're going to collect everything, because that's how I've been in every other game.
Yeah.
just pick one and stick with that. And so get a Romulan deck box, and declare that everything you own for this game is going to fit inside this box and no more.
Yeah, as my wife would say, every now and then she kind of looks at all the cards we have and kind of shake her head at how much space they take up, and then I remind her of my buddy James who plays Mech Warrior, or not Mech Warrior, BattleTech, one of the minis games, and he has Tupperware shelves and containers and layers and toolboxes, and she kind of shakes her head and just goes, "Oh, at least you don't play minis."
Yeah, there was a lot of that walking on the con floor. There's a lot of minis. There's a lot of, it could be comic books. It could be a lot of things, and cards don't take up much space. So that's one of the restrictions I'd impose on myself. Is if I've got it in this game, number one, it couldn't be a ridiculous investment, and number two, because I'm going to be probably investing in another card game eventually. And number two, it couldn't take up a lot of space. So I think that would fit. But I was intrigued. I kind of want to do a demo, but I just didn't see them. And in the past few years, they've had the giant foam, Star Wars ships sitting out. You can move around, and I didn't see it this year. So maybe I'll try again at Gen Con.
Well, if nothing else, if you don't see a demo set up, I could always bring my ships along, and I could show you how to play.
I might take you up on that, even if as long as it doesn't take up too much space.
Yeah, they won't.
Yeah. All right. I did get a demo of a couple other interesting games. I ended up not buying anything, but I went with people that bought a lot of other things. Legendary had a new set that I asked for a demo for. Rogue, have you heard about this? The all bad guy set?
No.
Yeah, so they released a set of just villains, and you play bad guys, and then they tweak the board so that the heroes start taking over the city, and you got to fight them off before they take over. It
Oh
was
wow.
yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then I sat down and got a demo with a couple of other our friends of the base game. So I was a little disappointed in that.
Oh. So
uh,
were there like hero masterminds?
yeah, yeah, everything's flipped, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, or at least that's the best I could get from what
That
little I saw, and
mind
not the actual.
blown.
Yeah, it looked interesting. I thought
Yeah.
you'd be interested in that, and I'm sure they'll have it at Gen Con, so we'll get a look at it there. Two of our friends played in the $1,000 legendary tournament. They both made it out of the first round, but didn't make it out of the second round, unfortunately. Um, the have you seen the DC version of legendary?
I have. I heard it's not strong.
It is different. I'll tell you. One of the things about legendary is there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, really. For someone who's new, it is intimidating how many things that you do on each turn. You turn over a villain, you fill in any heroes, and there might be bystander nonsense and ambush stuff, and you got to fight the bad guys before they go over there because they do this, and then there are other than villains, you could get the Master Strike card or the plot scheme twist and all. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's lots of piles, lots of decks, and it can be intimidating. The DC game is exactly the opposite of that. There
Really?
is there's a stack of like 3 or 4 supervillains, or mastermind supervillains guys. What do they call them? I think supervillains. And then there's a deck, and the deck is a mix of heroes, villains, equipment, locations, and superpowers, and you shuffle it all together. And you flip over the top 6 cards, and you just go around the table, and anybody can buy from those 6 cards. And when it's taken out, another card goes in its spot. And you just build your deck that way. So your deck is the good guys, your deck is bad guys, your deck is equipment. Sometimes they pair well together. Um, Sometimes it doesn't matter. There's only one resource. There's not fight and recruit. It's just fight. So you either have to have enough fight to buy a card or enough fight to fight one of the bad guys. And that's really it. And you
So
play until...
sacrificing complexity for simplicity.
Yes. Um, I played in they've got a second set out. It's from Cryptozoic. They've got a second set out, and I'll tell you what, the second set is full of people that I've never heard of. Now that could be because of DC, and I don't follow a lot of DC, but man, I I think I recognized there was a Batgirl card, and there was what's the superhero that you gender bend cosplay?
Huntress?
Yes, there was a Huntress, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it was rough. Because I'm looking at all these cards, I'm like, man, this could be anything. This could be this could be Garbage Pail Kids for all I care. I just don't recognize this property at all. And it was very swingy. Like if you bought the 7 cost card, which was the most I saw, it was pretty much every time this card comes up, you do something cool and you get better and better. So
You win.
yeah, you win more. I thought it was fun. I thought it would be good for someone who likes DC Comics and doesn't want the complexity that is Legendary. I didn't hate it, but I don't think our group would like it. I felt like a step down from Dominion.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a demo of you played Sorrow, right? Sorrow
Yeah.
Path.
They have a new one, right?
Yeah, Sorrow of the Seas, and man, it was the whole game. The whole game is there's like a 7x7 grid, and you flip over a tile, and you play a tile on the board, and you have to play it right in front of your guy. In this case, it was a boat, your little boat, and you follow the path with your boat. And but in addition and the whole point is to not go off the board, because all the paths go different directions, and you have to keep playing tiles in front of you, and eventually you cross paths with someone else, and you get sent on long journeys, and you hope you don't go off the board. And the last one to go off the board in the classic game wins. In this game, there are also dragons that just randomly pop up on the board based on a die roll, and if I think on a
Because any game
six.
is better with dragons.
Yeah, no kidding. On a
Sure.
6, 7, 8, not only do they may be more dragons, but they move in random directions and they clear off previous tiles. And if they clear off somewhere where you are, then you go with it, and you're off the
Oh
board.
God.
So the demo was me and my wife and the demo guy, and in like the third turn, a dragon ate me, and that was it. You do get to continue to play the dragons if you're off the board, so that's kind of nice because
Oh,
in
nice.
the original game, you know, if it's 6 players, the last 2 people are
Yeah.
playing and everyone else is kind of watching. Not so in this. You get to keep rolling for the dragons and moving the dragons around, so that was fun. But they kept playing. They went around in circles, and the dragon clears a swath of paths, so you can start playing, you know, going that direction again, and um, it was fun. I liked it. I probably would have bought it if it wasn't, you know, $40 plus another $20 for the expansion. But it's on my list. It's on my list of things that I want to play again, and or create my own version of. We did a demo of uh, what's the game that we play every year? King of Tokyo for more King of Tokyo cards.
Ah, yes.
I do
What
like
was
that
the
game.
Yeah,
what was
was
the
a lot of
promo
fun.
this year?
Same as before, and in fact, I think the amusement park is the same promo card that we same promo pack that we got last time. But I got a pack for Jesse just in case. Um,
Nice.
and I won the demo. That was fun. I was down to 1 life for like 3 turns, and nobody was attacking. Everyone was trying to heal up, so I managed to jump back in and wipe everybody out. Fire breathing, that one that damages the people to the left and right of you every time you do damage. That was awesome.
Yeah.
By the same company, Aielo. There's a very small and very simple game called Rumble in the House or something like that. And you start off with a grid of like 4x4, so 4x4 rooms. So there's 16 little rooms, and there's a character on each room, and you know they're all different. So you could there were, you know, a little duck guy and a little ninja guy and a little dragon wizard guy or whatever. And before the game starts, you just put them all on there randomly. Before this game starts, there's a second little pile of tokens for one token matches each person. So everyone grabs 2 tokens secretly, and you secretly look at them, and then you set them aside. And on your turn, you can either move someone who's alone into a room, alone into another room, adjacent room, or if there's 2 people in one room, you can kick one of them out of the house. You can have a fight. You know, so if there's 3 people in a room, you just choose one and set it aside. And then you just go around. You can do one of those 2 things on your turn. So the object is to have your guys be the last ones kicked out, right? So the first 2 people kicked out are worth 0 points, and the next worth 1 point, and the next one's worth 2 points and 3 all the way up. If you're the last one in the house, I think you get 10 or 15 points or whatever. So, you know, it's a little bit of mental, okay, I just moved a piece. Was that a piece that I wanted moved away from my piece, or was that my piece that I'm moving into a room and hoping you don't take somebody out? It was very simple. It was very quick. I think that was the best part. It was very quick. You play 3 rounds, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. But it doesn't take much thought, and you can play it while you're doing something else. You know, you can play it while you're drinking, or play it while, you know, other games are going on. It was very, very simple, very quick, very small. It was fun. I think Elizabeth, one of the people in the group, bought a copy of that to go home with. I did a demo of another Cryptozoic game while we were waiting for the DC game. It was about this weird spiral, and you're all ships trying to get out of the spiral to the end, and your engines are out, so the only thing you can do is to do gravity assists on the other ships. So everyone's playing like a card that will push me away from the closest ship, or a card that will attract me to the closest ship. So you're slinging, shouting around, and everyone's trying to get out through the spiral at the same time. And instead of just getting dealt cards, you draft cards. You know, there's the 9 cards out there, and you draft them, and you get 2 cards for every one that you can see. And it was seriously brain twisting, and it was pretty fun. But I kind of felt like there was a lot of luck involved, because when you play the cards, everyone plays at the same time, and then you kind of play out what happened. And I think on the last turn, I got right to the end, and it just so happened that one of my opponents had played a card that would have been horrible had they gone first, but since they went second and I was ahead of them, it shot them all the way out to into the end, and they won.
Huh.
We didn't buy that game.
Yeah, Guess not.
It was very pretty. I'll tell you what. It was one of the best looking games I saw. The board was just beautiful. All the cards were well thought out, and it was a simple mechanic, but it was a lot of luck involved. I felt. Um, yeah. Uh, there's a few other games that we demoed, but there was a horrible game. Have you ever voted in the Origins Awards?
Once or twice, but usually when I go, there's this huge line, and I don't really care that much. I was like, oh, I'll vote if they need votes, but yeah.
This year, in the back far right corner of the actual exhibitor floor, there was a 10-table space with all the games there, and you just go and say, hey, I want to check out this game. And I said, okay, here's a copy. Sit down and play.
Yeah.
And so we sat down and played. My wife and I demoed a few of the kids' games, trying to figure out, what party games, kids' games we were looking for. There was something called My Happy Farm, and it was, you know how in Killer Bunnies, you have to plan 2 turns ahead. You put your card down in the run, and then you play the top card on the next card. On your next turn, you play the card that you played last turn. It slides up. Well, this was like 3 times that. I have no idea how a 6-year-old, I think was the lower limit, would possibly conceive how to play 3 cards in advance, because you had to plant things, and then you had to wait for the next season before you could harvest them, and then you couldn't do more than 2 things. So if you harvest, you couldn't fed your animal. It was hideously complex, and
Wow.
I didn't vote for that. I can't recommend it. We tried Love Letter. Have you played that one?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
That was kind of fun. It's very simple. Daniel, have you seen that one?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's like a 10-card deck, and the object is to have the highest ranking person in your hand at the end, and not be forced to go out. And you end up drawing. You start off with 1 card, and you draw 1, so you have 2 cards to play. And sometimes they're bad, and you have to play 1, and you're out. Or sometimes you get lucky, and you play one that's good. And it was very fast. It's very quick. Would play again. I think I've played it before. I think one of our local guys who has a car trunk full of games has a copy of it, because it's small enough you could just put it in your pocket. So that's nice. And there was a booth that had kids' games. Imagine tic-tac-toe, except instead of just putting a piece, marking your spot, you can put like a ghost from Pac-Man, one of those shapes. And there are 3 sizes of ghosts, right? So if you put a piece down and it's not the biggest size, I can put my piece on top of it.
Okay.
And then you can move. And then instead of just putting pieces down and that's it, you can move pieces around. But if you move one, if I've covered up your piece and I move that piece and your piece comes back, it was pretty cool. I didn't buy that. There was also a game for the same company that had it was like a two it was a rectangular like box, like Crossfire. You remember that Crossfire game where you shoot the marbles across to the other side?
Oh, geez, yeah.
It was about that size, maybe a little smaller, except and there were a half dozen wooden discs on each side, and there's a little rubber band toward the rear end of your side. And instead of being wide open, there was just one little slot right in the middle, just bigger than the little discs that you have. So with one finger, you got to you put your finger on the disc, and you pull it back into the rubber band, and you let it go, and you got to shoot it through the little hole. And you just shoot as fast as you can while pieces are flying all around. That was fun too. But again, I didn't buy that game.
Well, you said you didn't buy anything, so I think we can.
Oh no, I lied. I bought 2 things. I bought a stocking stuffer for my folks. I got the expansion to Zombie Dice 2.
What?
Yeah.
I heard there's a 3rd one of that coming out.
All right. Yeah. This is Santa Claus Meets the Zombies and the big summer action movie.
I saw that.
3 dice. It looks fun. And a friend of mine wanted some dice, so I bought a set, and then I bought a D5 for myself from Game Science.
Yay.
Yeah.
There's a double brain in that.
Yeah. Double brain and I think what does it say? The hottie has 2 shotguns and 3 feet icons. So she's hard to catch apparently. And then and Santa Claus brings football helmets and something else. I don't know. Explosions. It looks like he has 2 brains too. I I had a great time. I had time to walk around. The boy slept during, we put him in the stroller, so we'd walk until he fell asleep, and then we'd sit down and play a game. Um,
Nice.
yeah, North Market is always fantastic for food. It's just down the street. I think I ate there every day. Uh, Definitely would go again next year. I was disappointed not to play any Star Trek. Um, might be a little bit on me for not trying to get something organized a little bit sooner. So I think next year I'll probably post something to the boards a little bit earlier. Um, but I'll definitely be going back and making reservations again next year. Had a great time.
Well, I tell you what, I was trying really hard to ignore everything about it all week uh, because I didn't want to think about it. But we played games Friday night, played board games because y'all we had enough people missing to not RPG, and I saw all the posts from people who went. A friend of mine, costuming friend of mine, is just getting into board gaming, and she went to her first Origins and loved it, and that Matinee Adventures came back and they posted on their Facebook page how much fun they had, and they're already planning their itinerary for next year, which is probably going to include a Dresden Files game, thanks to popular demand.
Excellent. Well,
Uh,
I know you've been trying to crash a Dresden Files game for quite a long time. Yeah, I walked by their area. Oh, let me do one thing I forgot. So previously they had the exhibitor floor, and the exhibitor floor is like maybe a third the size of the Gen Con exhibitor floor. It's about the same. They moved the art gallery inside, which was nice because then the artists get a lot more traffic.
oh,
And
cool, yeah.
they also had the Origins Award stuff in there. So I'd say it was about a third of the size, plus a little bit extra. Next door, where they previously had that just huge open empty space for board games, they
Mhm.
had it was a board game room, but it was also like the exhibitor floor part 2, where all the exhibitors had 10 tables. So you could do all the demos over there. They had things for
Oh,
sale over there.
nice.
Yeah, that's where the all the Mayfair games had their setups over there. So the main floor didn't feel as crowded. It felt like you could have a smaller booth because you didn't have to have 20 tables set up. But it was
Very
like the
cool.
second exhibitor floor because we walked around the exhibitor floor for a while. Get to play a bunch of little games and see some of the big stuff. And then we went next door and it's like, wow, look at all this room to sit down and play a few things. They had
That
the giant size what was it?
Settlers.
King of Tokyo.
Oh, wow.
Monster size, so you actually you are in Tokyo
You
or
are the
you're in Tokyo.
monster.
Yeah, it was great.
I saw
Uh,
that at Gen Con last
That's
year.
awesome.
In fact, it was very close to our to the Trek CC stuff.
that's right. I remember that. It was the same setup, and those dice look like they need to be replaced soon. But having the second floor over there meant that the dealer floor was a lot smaller, or it not smaller, but it felt like it was a little bit more maneuverable. There wasn't
Sure.
just a ton of people sitting, just piling out of each of the booths. You could wander around and see what you wanted to see, and everyone seemed a little bit happier. And then next door was where all the serious guys were sitting down and gaming, and it worked
Right.
well.
That really makes me want to go play King of Tokyo in King of Tokyo costumes.
Like something positive style. Yeah, so that was great, and yeah, the Settlers of America on the floor was over there, and uh,
Nice.
excellent. You know what? You
Well,
know who wasn't there? Before I forget, or didn't have the normal booth was it David Adams Card World? Was that the booth that has the huge big ring of boxes on top of boxes?
oh,
Or
like
no?
the box table.
The
Oh,
box
that's
table.
one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had a very small booth, and the one that we always go to, Hills did not have a booth either. I didn't see them at all.
Wow.
Maybe they'll be at Gen Con. I can only
Yeah, I
assume.
know a lot of groups only do one or the other. A number of years ago, it was leaning towards Origins because of some negotiating problems with Gen Con, but it sounds like things are swinging back towards Gen Con's way. So we'll probably see some of them at Gen Con.
Yeah. But anyway, had a great time. We'll go back next year. And if you were to be joining me, I'll probably crash one of those Firefly or Serenity games, or Battlestar
Yeah,
Galactica games that I didn't do this year.
I will definitely have to get back. I can't stay away for more than a year.
Excellent. All right. I think I've yammered on long enough about that. Why don't we go to the spoiler we have, and then we'll wrap it up. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Go ahead
We
and
have a
chat. You go ahead and talk, and I'll put this up on my list, on my screen here.
I guess while he's putting it up, I should mention there's a very interesting spoiler on the site tonight. Past the tick, we've got a new Tuvok up,
Tuvok. Oh yeah,
and he
that
has a
looks
very
familiar.
interesting new icon.
Oh, so he does. It looks like another Genesis conversion of a TUI Tuvok, but he had a little Maquis infiltration icon. Very
Yeah,
cool.
that's cool. That's pretty neat. And oh my God, he's got like 3 classifications. He's loaded.
Yeah, well, those Voyager folk gotta maintain their power curve, I guess. Speaking of curves, he downloads learning curve.
Yes, he does.
And he
Which
has
has also been
security.
converted.
He has security, so you can get him up first. I like it. All right, let me see if I can figure out what I'm doing here. Oh, there we go. That's the screenshot I want. There we go. Boink. Start. Hooray! All right, this is Tabor. His existence was announced in the release article, or the release kit article, anyway.
Speaking of TUI conversions, he has that little icon at the bottom. Another dual personnel for the Delta Quadrant, because that seems to be what they do. Bajoran and Fed. I guess it's only fair since his 1E version is dual like that to have this new one be. But he has the Maquis icon and a staffing icon, and he's still an engineer, which makes sense. And he's got a beard icon, which I really feel like should mean something else.
I think that should be the Mirror Universe icon.
Yeah, that should be like the Mirror Universe icon.
I showed my son the Thomas Riker card with the beard in the art and then the little beard in the image, and we've started calling that beardception.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Tabor is an engineer, and he's got physics and science and computer skill. And then he has one more skill dot, but it relates to his attributes. So I'll bounce down his attributes. His attributes are 4, 6, 6, but his cunning and strength are also plus X. And if you go back up to the skill dot, you'll see that X equals 3 if there are 6 or more personnel in your discard pile. So that's pretty much the same style of mechanic that he has on his 2E version, just adjusted for 1E.
I'm looking at his integrity, and I see the number 5 there. I think you said 4.
Yeah.
I could be mistaken.
Did I say 5? I thought I said 4. Sorry.
Yes.
It's 5.
All right, so 599, pretty much. You've got a few people in your profile. You want to read his lore? Because I always struggle with that first word.
Apoplectic Bajoran, haunted by the screams of Krell Moset's victims. Chakotay helped him focus his rage. Skilled holoprogrammer, friend of Jor.
Jor. Who is Jor?
Don't even know. Is that who he's like raging over one of his friends being killed by the Cardassians. That's probably who Krell Moset tortured. That he hates him so much.
This is card 27V, and there'll probably be a 27-star V, which would be the Federation version of this card.
Seems like that would be why he was announced in the release article, maybe?
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, well, that is a whole lot of intelligence. I think we're probably due to wrap up, but we want to give a shout-out to Daniel Madison. Thanks for coming by and talking about regionals for us so that we didn't have to.
Thanks for having me.
We've been a little lax in our coverage of that, but that's fine because you have been doing more than uh, I want to say more than adequate. That sounds very derogatory. You've been doing an excellent job of that, and so that's not really something that we've had to cover because you're already doing it better than we can because we've only gone to one regional. I even
Yeah.
missed one of ours, I think.
I appreciate it. If I could get a plug in, I wanted to mention, like I said before, that we're gonna be doing shows for Continentals. I do not have any guests lined up for Continentals yet, so if anybody is planning on going to any of the Continentals in July and they'd like to come on the show either before or after, and either preview or recap the event, send me a PM at OK Coyote. Because right now July is totally open, so we're looking for guests.
Hey, speaking of,
Sounds good.
this is going to work. Speaking of Continentals, have you seen these?
I did. I just saw that go up.
Yeah.
It looks like we're going to have a new special prize for
That's pretty.
our Continentals winners this year.
Yeah. I don't use playmats because I think they smell like I don't like the smell they have. They give off. They off gas. It's bad enough I gotta deal with this mouse pad here, but man, that's pretty.
It's a gaseous nebula, Dan.
Oh yeah, well there you go.
Of course, it's going to give off.
What you're saying is it's a feature.
That's right.
Yes.
I love the playmats. Actually, I'm a little upset that I'm not going to make it to Continentals this year, but and be able to get my hands on one of them. But I guess in the announcement they said that they may make their way into the promenade, so I'd be really excited to eventually pick one up and maybe even have a couple as prize support. That sounds like a really neat new prize option.
Yeah, that's great. I like the article said is that you can buy the one without the little continental icons in the bottom left, which is great.
Yeah.
I think it'll sell well, and everyone will have these nice, pretty play mats with the Continuing Committee logo down at the bottom right. I think it's a great idea.
Nice. All right. Well, once again, I think that's about it. Wait, anything else before I say that again? Are we done? One more plug. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks to War of 11 for their theme song. Thanks for Daniel Madison for stopping by. Thanks to Dan for not saying what he was about to say and interrupting me for a third time as we try to end the show. I am Sir Rogue.
And I'm Sir Dan.
And I will remind you all to expand your power in the universe.
And I will draw to end.